Okay, so we're going to start off by drawing a horizontal line. We want the horizontal line to be in the middle of the paper, and your product is going to turn out better if you've got a landscape orientation. Why is that? Good question. You know the answer? You do. So, perspective is very dependent upon kind of the way your natural field of vision works. So, when you use a wider format like this, which is more akin to your sort of natural field of vision, it's going to make the perspective work a lot better. All right? So, when you start to use a vertical format, it tends to start to stretch things out, especially when you get close to the top or the bottom of the page. Okay? So one of the things we talked about is with two-point perspective, we want our vanishing points to be far away from each other. So we're actually going to put them on the edge of the page, just about as far away from each other as we can. All right? So remember that vanishing points are going to be at a 90-degree angle from each other. So if I hold out my arms like this and try to make a 90-degree angle, that's kind of where my vanishing points are going to be, like where I see these fingers. And if I look kind of straight ahead, I can kind of see both of these out of my peripheral vision, but they're not really in my sort of comfortable field of vision. So when I start to push them closer together, it's going to skew the perspective, and it's going to make it look weird, which might be kind of fun, but isn't really useful for drawing realistically. All right, so the first thing we need to understand is when to use one-point perspective versus two-point perspective. So we're going to use one-point perspective when the part of the figure that is closest to us is a surface, is a face. So if we imagine that this is a window looking out on our subject, if we imagine there's an actual sheet of glass here, if that sheet of glass is parallel to the surfaces of the figures, then we're going to be using one-point perspective. We're going to switch to two-point when the closest thing to us is an edge. All right? So we're still set up with our eye level on the horizon, but we're looking at our subject at an angle. So we're going to draw a box to start. So for this type of perspective, we're going to have three different types of lines. We're going to have vertical lines, and we're going to have diagonal lines. We call the diagonal lines that go to the vanishing point converging lines. It's really hard to write with this. And we're going to have converging lines that go to the left-hand vanishing point and the right. So we're going to start with that edge. That edge is going to be a vertical line, just like this. Now, it's a little piece of information that might be a little advanced for some of you, but some of you might get it, and if you get it, I think you'll have a much better understanding of perspective. So if this doesn't make any sense to you, just try not to think about it. If it does, maybe think about it a little bit and try to understand it. You're going to have, like I said, a vanishing point, two of them at perpendicular angles. So we'll call this one the north vanishing point and this one the east vanishing point. They're perpendicular. They're at a 90-degree angle. You're also going to have one below you and one above you. Now, if I'm looking straight out ahead, level with the ground, the vanishing point above me and below me are going to be equidistant from each other. Okay? When we've got vanishing points that are equidistant, we're going to use vertical lines or horizontal lines. All right? When I use one-point perspective, I've got a vanishing point to the east. I've also got one to the north and the south. So my horizontal lines in one-point perspective are going to the vanishing point in the north and the south. But because that surface is parallel to my field or my picture plane, they never converge. And the vertical lines in one-point perspective are going to the vanishing points above and below me. But because I'm parallel to that surface, they never converge. If that didn't make any sense, that's okay. Don't worry about it. If it did, good for you. All right. So we're going to start off by drawing like a full box, and by that I mean a transparent box, so that you can see the entire structure. And then we'll talk about which surfaces we will be able to see and which we won't, and thus hopefully understand which ones we need to draw. So I'm actually going to extend this all the way to the vanishing point. With this first edge, I'm going to send converging lines from the top and bottom, both directions. So this set goes to the right. I should have a long triangle. And this set goes to the left. I should have another long triangle. So notice that the further down or up, the further away my box is from the horizon, the sharper these angles get. Let's go ahead and get that down. I'll give you a little bit of time. So the next thing that we want to do is figure out where the back of these sides are. So we want to think about this vertical line here. Just decide where the back's going to be. If I was observing something and drawing it, I'd try to figure out how far away that back was and put it in the right place. But since we're just creating things whole cloth, you can put them wherever you want. Try to get them as vertical as possible. Now, I'm going to make converging lines coming from the top and bottom of each of these lines. Because they're on this converging line, I don't need to make them going to the left. Okay, those lines are already there. I just need to make them going to the right. So each line should have two converging lines coming out of it. Okay? And if I did everything right, I've got a top here and a bottom here, and I should be able to connect them with the vertical line. And that's not quite vertical, I have to fudge it a little bit, but if you do everything right, they should just about connect. Okay? So here's our transparent box. So let's talk about which lines we need and which ones we don't. We don't need these lines here, so I'll get rid of those. Don't need these lines here, so I'll get rid of those. That's real hard to erase. Okay, so we've got a transparent box. We'll just leave that one transparent for now, but understand when this box is opaque, the sides that we're going to see are the left-hand side, the right-hand side, and the top. Okay? When the eye level, or the horizon, is above the box, we'll see the top. When it's below, we'll see the bottom. When the box is crossing the horizon, we won't see the top or the bottom. Let's do an example of that. Start with the vertical line, intersecting the horizon. Draw converging lines from the top and bottom to both vanishing points. Then we'll draw vertical edges at the back of each side. sometimes when we do art, it's okay to be messy. Sometimes it's even cool to be messy. Sometimes it makes the art fun and interesting. However, when we're doing perspective, neatness and accuracy is really important. Okay? There are going to be some exceptions to all of the lines being vertical or diagonal, or there's going to be one exception. That exception will be if I've got an edge that ends on the horizon, the bottoms are still going to go to the vanishing points. There's still going to be converging lines like this. The top is going to be horizontal because it's on the horizon. But notice it's still going to the vanishing points here and here. It's still a converging line. But when the line is actually on the horizon, it will end up being horizontal. It looks a little wonky. It's alright. Does that make sense? Oh, I'll pencil this in. You get lost in a box? Yeah. If I'm going too fast? Yeah. Just stop and try to do the next box, and hopefully you'll have the knowledge to fix your box eventually. But if you're not following along with what's currently happening, there's a good chance you're not going to get it. Let's try another one. I'm going to do one up above the horizon. So which sides are we going to see? Anybody? Yeah, good. The bottom and the two sides. So again, just draw a vertical line. Everybody draw a vertical line. Okay. Now, we're going to extend lines that go from the bottom to the right hand converging, or the vanishing point, the right hand vanishing point, and the left hand vanishing point. In the beginning, I draw these all the way to the vanishing point so you can see that they connect. But right now, I'm not going to extend them all that way because I've got a lot of erasing to do when I do that. So just understand that this ruler rests on the corner and on the vanishing point, and then I can draw my line. Do the same thing on the top. To the right. To the left. draw vertical lines from the back. Then we have to make the bottom. So for the bottom, we reverse it. So I already drew a converging line from the bottom here going to the left. So now I have to draw one going to the right. And then on this side, I already drew one going to the right. See? So I have to draw one going to the left. And those two should cross. So if it helps you out for the bottom, think that you have to draw an X basically. You gotta make a big X. I'll take out my extra lines. You guys want to see a thing? Made a thing. So this might help you visualize. So what I've got here is a cork board. And I've got push pins. So I'm going to put one in right hand vanishing point and one in left hand vanishing point. This is a set of rubber bands. Use this tool to draw as well. So again, we'll start with the vertical line. And then this I can use to draw my converging lines. Should have drawn this below. So, leading edge, top and bottom of the right hand side, top and bottom of the left hand side. Back of those sides, finish those sides off. And bottom. Better if I had one longer range. Okay? Does anybody have questions?
No.
Now, did you think before you said no, or did you just say no?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
Alright, so let's talk about shading these real quick then. Just go with the up and right light source again. So I'm going to shade this like dark. All the left hand sides will be dark. Bottoms will be real dark. Charcoal's not as soft as I'd like. Tops will be unshaded. And this side will be medium dark. Not medium dark, light. Light gray. Yeah! What's on your hands? Why are you using charcoal? James, don't get the charcoal. None of you are authorized to use charcoal at this point. You don't have clearance for that. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. So, 20 boxes again. If you need to use 2 sheets of paper to fit them, that's cool.